Mir Baseerat with another episode of What's Brewing. President Emmanuel Macron defeated his far-right rival Marine Le Pen, heading off a political earthquake for Europe, but acknowledging dissatisfaction with his first term and saying he would seek to make amends. His supporters hit the roof with elation as the results appear on the huge screen as the Champ de Mars sparked by the Eiffel Tower. Leaders in Canada, Berlin, Brussels, London and beyond hailed his defeat of the nationalist Le Pen. But even as exit polls showed a solid 58.5% of the vote, Macron in his victory speech accredited many had only voted for him only to keep Le Pen, and he promised to address the sense of many French that their living standards are slipping. Many in this country voted for me not because they support my thoughts or ideas, but to keep out those of the far right. I want to thank them and know I owe them a debt in the years to come, said Macron while addressing the nation after the results. No one in France will be left by the wayside, he said in a message that had already been spread by senior ministers during the rounds on French TV stations. 2 years of disruption from the pandemic and surging energy prices exacerbated by the Ukraine war catapulted economic crisis to the fore of the campaign. In the city of Louis Vuitton, Chanel and Hermes, the rising cost of the living had become an ever-increasing strain for the poorest in the country. Now what Macron needs in his second tenure is that he needs to be closer to the people and listen to them. He needs to overcome a reputation for being arrogant. With his second term, expectations of French are really high, and so is the pressure on Macron. Will he be able to justify his second inning? Well, that's what I bring to you in this episode of What's Brewing. Le Pen, who at one stage of the campaign had trailed Macron by just a few points in opinion polls, quickly acknowledged defeat, but she vowed to keep up the battle with parliamentary election in June this year. I will never abandon the French, she told supporters chanting Marine Marie. Remember, Macron can expect little or no grace period in a country whose bleak political dissection have been brought into the open by an election in which radical parties gained wealth. Many anticipate the street protests that marred part of his first term to erupt again as he pushes on his with pro-business restructuring. Macron's future will depend on the looming parliamentary elections, and on the other side, Le Pen wants a nationalist coalition in a move that raises the prospect of her functioning in tandem with rival far-rightists like Eric Zemmour. The disenchantment with Macron was reflected in a no-vote rate expected to settle around 28%. It's the highest since 1969. Initial polling gave an idea about the vote was noticeably splitting both by age and socio-economic status. 2/3 of working-class voters supported Le Pen, while analogous proportions of white-collar executives and pensioners backed Macron. Macron won around 59% of votes by the 18 to 24-year-olds, while with the votes almost in an even way divided in other age groups. During the campaign, Le Pen homed in one of the mounting cost of living and Macron's rasping style at some of his weakest points. She promised sharp cuts to fuel tax, 0% sales tax on essential items, income exemptions for younger workers, and a French first stance on jobs. Sounds like any other politician. Macron retorted by pointing to Le Pen's past high regards for Vladimir Putin. She could not be trusted on the world stage while insisting she still plans to pull France out of the European Union, something Le Pen refutes. Outside France, Macron's triumph was hailed as a reprieve for mainstream politics, rocked in the recent years by Britain's exit from the European Union, the 2016 election of Donald Trump, and the rise of a new generation of the nationalist leader. We have to see now, will there be continuity in government policy because the president has been re-elected, or will Le Pen surprise the French and the world in June elections? Let's wait and watch. Thank you and goodbye.